Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's Kings Local Schools Board of Education regular meeting to order. Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff,
Here.
Ms. Cowan,
Here.
Mr. Skirl,
Here.
Mr. Belfrom.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skirl? Yes. Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. So first this evening on our agenda are the reports and presentations. Looks like we have the master planning and community engagement presentation. Mr. Sears?
Yes, thank you, President Belfrom. Board of Education Community, as the last few months, we've been engaging into quite a bit of information and process, analyzing the capacity and utilizations within our school district. We've communicated the outcomes of a study completed by Cropper GIS that has done 2 board presentations, which you've had an opportunity to engage with. Analyzing the capacities and the overcrowding that we currently have at 5 of our 6 primary buildings. From there, in that analysis, we had presented to the board this information, and there was an RFQ that was completed that the board approved, and we interviewed companies last week. At that point in time, we presented to the Board of Education that we, based on the scale and the rankings that we did in our analysis, SHP kind of rose to the top for that. This week, we have been working through the contract with SHP for master planning services. That contract will be approved later in tonight's agenda. The board will have an opportunity to approve that later in tonight's agenda. But before we did that, we did want to bring in Charlie Janigan, principal in charge at SHP, to outline some of the potential future work at King's with master planning and the community engagement efforts. So at this time, I will turn it over to Charlie Janigan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sears. And I have a presentation on the board there. If you want to go back one more slide or to slide 2. Great. So I'm Charlie Janigan. I'm an architect. I'm one of the owners at SHP. I've been at SHP for over 23 years, and I live in the K through 12 world of design and master planning facilities. On the screen, you can see some other teammates that'll be with me. Frank Forstoffel is a retired local superintendent. Greg Lewis is a designer. Phil Anastasio gets involved with client analytics and community outreach. And Jeff Parker is another master planning and lead designer who's also an architect. Jen Naylor and Carrie Malatesta also get involved in our engagement session, so they will also participate. You have a large district. You have a lot of constituents that we need to speak with, and that's why we have a large team to be able to get that accomplished. Next slide. So what we want to do is we have a kind of a three group process. Number 1 is to create in the green box targeted stakeholder outreach. This would be through face-to-face meetings with large groups. This could be a lot of focus groups, small group meetings. You'll see some breakdowns of the teams here in a second. We will also solicit feedback in digital manners with text messaging, surveying during our meetings, social media outreach. So this is kind of a cross section that really will cover the district to make sure we touch as many people as possible. Number 2 is the district team. This is the main group of administration members who will be involved in some of the internal aspects of the schedule and the scope and the budget. They will also vet and make sure that we're getting the data and feedback from the appropriate groups. And then last is we will form a team called the King's Community Advisory Team. Sometimes we refer to this as the CAT team for community advisory. And this will be kind of a group of folks. We want to have about 60 participants. elementary parents, high school parents, middle school parents, parents who have kids not in the schools yet, or parents who have kids and they've moved on, they're in college, or business leaders. So we want this team to be a diverse team to provide feedback for a couple of targeted meetings with them. So that will be kind of a group that help guide us. So we know with that's fine to go to the next slide, through our process of leading master planning, that those kind of cross sectors can get the feedback we need. Right now we're kind of in the getting ready phase. And then the next point will be inform and kind of collect data and get a lot of data. You've done a lot of that already. The Cropper feedback has been really powerful. From there, we'll start to talk about concepts for master plans. And then in the third and fourth phase, we kind of can refine things, and it ultimately leads to a recommendation. Next slide shows kind of the district team, where we are right now creating schedules and organizing the process. We have 25 meetings set up over the next 10 weeks. From there, the targeted stakeholder and focus groups will start. And a lot of those are just listening and just getting feedback. How are we looking? How do you feel about site logistics? How do you feel about the state of the classrooms? And just start to get feedback from how the community sees the buildings. From there, we'll be working with the community advisory team. You'll see a series of 3 meetings with them. And they will be helping vet what the possible master plan scenarios can be. And again, you can see that one key to success, statistically representative surveying. We will make sure that we get the numbers we need to make sure we can come here and say, hey, with certainty, we can stand behind the feedback we've received. Next, this kind of is the next third of the portion where we're doing additional stakeholder outreach. So we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to provide feedback. We want to test some of the master plans and see what the folks' response, the community's response is to those. And then from there, we will bring these back to the community advisory team, and we will continue to kind of vet things out. Next slide really gets to a kind of a final concept where we test final concepts. We might have 2 concepts that really stand out, and we will go to folks in November and really test these to see if the support that the community has for the master plan. Ultimately, it comes to you guys. It comes to the board. We want the CAT team to come to the board because they've been a part of the journey, and we would want to have members from the community stand here and say, hey, based off all the research, based off all the meetings, based off all the feedback, here is we have confidence with this plan moving forward. So it's a fast plan, but we've laid out a roadmap to achieve it here in the next 10 weeks. So this is one of our targeted stakeholder kind of breakdowns of community members. So we want to make sure we talk with staff, parents, again, booster organizations, alumni, new parents who moved here because they want to send their kids to King's, but their kids aren't in the schools yet. So that's an important voice. Business leaders, HOAs, there's a lot of new neighborhood developments, and we want to make sure we hear from a lot of the people who've moved here over the past few years with a lot of the development that's been going on. So next slide shows some of the engagement strategies. Again, it'll be very branded, and so folks know when they start seeing certain logos, oh, this has to do with the master planning process. Again, using social media and other mechanisms to test folks or to get responses from people. And we find that text messaging is a real powerful tool where a lot of us, our phones vibrate and that little dot, you got to respond to it. And emails, we're more content with that sitting in the inbox for days or weeks on end. So a lot of research has gone in, a lot of experience is coming here to help you guys get there. And we're really excited. So that's the abridged 5-minute. Any questions that you may have today? On our calendar is every board meeting from now through November. So you plan on seeing me or representatives from our team to provide updates. So we want to make sure the board is hearing the latest and greatest in each step of this process.
Charlie, do you want to identify when the first community meeting is?
Sure. We've penciled in the first community CAT team on the 27th of September. That's an invite will go out, assuming the contract's approved. So that we a week from tomorrow. And then the first community forum, the open forum would be on Thursday, September 28th, and that would be at the high school. So we've got a lot of dates to orchestrate, a lot of logistics with locations and venues and making sure we're not double booking things, but we're moving quickly, but we're moving in a very organized and transparent manner. So
Just wanted to say, Charlie, thank you. I really appreciate, as I know the rest of the board does too, all of the attempts to get as much communication from our community as possible. I think that's very important. So thank you.
thank you.
So just to clarify, the first opportunity for people that would like to engage would be the open forum on the 28th.
On the
at the high
28th,
school.
yes,
Okay.
that's
And-
correct.
And how does that get communicated out to our community?
That's going to be shared with social media. That will be shared on your weekly email. And then I believe for future ones, we're also talking with the district about sending a postcard to get folks who don't get the weekly emails. So we want to make sure a lot of the community members who don't have kids in the school have opportunities to provide input.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And will the community, will they be able to get up and speak at these meetings? Is
Yes.
it going to be interactive back and forth?
Yeah,
between you and everybody.
All the meetings that we're having, there are opportunities for dialogue or responses, and then just kind of an open forum, any other questions. If it's large group, oftentimes we might have them texted in, or you can do it by your computer through a survey, and then everybody can see it. We also provide written mechanisms. So this is a multi-generational engagement. So we know we need to engage millennials, and we need to engage baby boomers, and they all have different methods of communicating. So we provide all those options.
I will add that we will be live streaming each one of the community forums on our YouTube page. So we will take this equipment and move it to the high school. I think there's benefit if people do watch it live, because I do believe there's going to be some interactive live polling. Is that correct?
Yep. We'll have live polling, and folks watching from a soccer game could have an earbud in and be watching the field, and then still have the ability on their phone to provide response. So we know families are busy, and we want to, again, provide every opportunity for people to provide feedback.
How will you notify businesses of the meetings to attend?
We'll work, if we need to, we'll work with the district to figure out which businesses. We know that you guys have other advisory groups, and so we may pull from some of those. But if we need to go knock on doors and say, hey, please, share this with, folks, we have other methods of getting that out to the business community. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have one particular district we worked for, and we shared information with Post-it notes on pizza boxes, and pizza boxes were distributed throughout the community, and we got actually an overwhelming response through the distribution of pizza. So it was fascinating in Warren County.
When do we expect the recommendation to the board, Charlie?
So the recommendation would need to come the week of November 13th. And the reason why is your first filing to the state needs to be in place on November 20th. So that's the consent form number 1 needs to be filed by November 20th. So we've talked potentially that's Capitol Conference Week. So when you guys return, there might be a special meeting that week to take on that final recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions, Mr. Jennings? No. Mr. Sears, do you have anything else?
Good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda for the evening is public participation. Seeing that we have no one signed up, we will move on to the consent agenda approval items for the treasurer, the minutes from the August 8th meeting, the Records Commission meeting on August 28th, the regular meeting minutes on the 28th, financial items, permanent appropriations and amended certificate of estimated resources and the public records law. Mr. Morrow, did you have anything to add or?
No, I don't have anything to add from the work session, but more than happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions? All right, well, with that, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items for the treasurer for this evening?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the consent agenda are the approval items for the superintendent. Looks like we have 2 field trips, one for the high school choirs and one for the men's varsity basketball team. Mr. Sears, did you have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Sears? One day we'll all get an invite to these trips in Florida. But until then, I'll just keep bringing it up. With that, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items for the superintendent?
I'll make that motion.
I will second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the consent agenda are the approval items for the assistant superintendent regarding HR and business matters. We have personnel items, the transportation in lieu of report. Those are the first items here. Was there anything to add specifically here, Mr. Spinner, Mr. Lucky?
Nothing to add with regards to personnel items. However, I do believe that Mr. Lucky does have some comments to make about item number 2.
In lieu of, this is our yearly first swipe at it, because we do give people the ability to prorate and come into the transportation in lieu of. It's really a mechanism developed by the state that allows us to consider practical or impractical different routes to different schools that may be within or outside of that 30-minute from their home school range. A lot of these students, there might be one student at a school, one to 3 or 4 or 5. It doesn't warrant a full bus route to create that. So we offer this payment in lieu of to parents. So for the full year, the state actually raised this payment from about $250 to $538. So it's a better rate for the parents that are driving these kids. It comes nowhere near what the cost of fuel is probably for the entire year, but it is a little bit more beneficial to the parents that do take advantage of the program. So we may come back, you may see onesies, twosies throughout the year, but this is the big swipe at it.
So parents can apply for this at any time?
Correct. And depending on when, so we can prorate if a student, transferred schools or moved here and went to CHCA, we offer a route, so we don't do in lieu of, but if they went to, Mars Hill or something that we don't provide transportation to, we would prorate that 538 and give them a half a year or quarter year.
Okay, thank you.
And just out of curiosity, when there's multiple children in a family, is that per child?
Correct.
Any further questions? With that, may I have a motion to approve items 1 and 2 for the assistant superintendent regarding HR and business?
I'll make that motion.
I will second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Right, and item 4 that is up for approval is the SHP Master Planning Community Engagement Agreement. Mr. Janigan was so gracious to come and review with us this evening. Did we have any further questions regarding that? Right, with that, may I have a motion to approve item 4?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
And lastly, we do have the item 6, the transportation update. Is this something you need to discuss further, Mr. Lucky?
Yes, please.
All right.
All right. Thank you, President Beltram. So wanted to give an update. We're roughly a month into the school year and we've started our 3-tier transportation model. So just to go back a ways back to last year, we were having a incredible time staffing our bus drivers. It's a national dilemma. It's not King centric. It's a nationwide deal, and districts throughout the country still deal with that pressure every day and have to cancel routes to different families randomly. We call them rolling brownouts or whatever you'd like to call them. Districts still deal with that on a daily basis. By making that change, we were able to lower the total number of routes necessary to 43. This enabled us to really hold 5 less drivers needed. So last year we were basically short 5, and going to that 3-tier system enabled us to be fully staffed, which has been a very wonderful thing, I think, for everybody in this room, especially, and then all of our parents that aren't wondering if my kid's bus is going to show up this afternoon and how late are they going to be. With that 3-tier model that we went to, we were very aggressive and trying to make sure that we didn't upset the apple cart. We wanted to limit the amount of pain that was caused just by change. So our focuses were, how do we allow our high school students to sleep in as long as humanly possible? And how do we make sure we get our kids out of school before 4 o'clock and home before 5 o'clock? Because some of our routes, especially coming from Columbia, can be very long, just basically for mileage. You're driving 20 minutes before your first stop. So we were very aggressive in the times that we picked. And one of the things that we probably overcompensated for was our location of South Lebanon Elementary versus Columbia. So South Lebanon, we actually adjusted our start time a little bit earlier than the other 2 elementaries to account for the distance that that bus would have to travel coming out of tier 2 to get to Columbia Intermediate School. What that's doing, it's creating some hardship for our SLE families and staff, because in the afternoon, that bus from the high school that leaves the high school lot at 3:08 has an anchor time to get to SLE by 3:30. That's 22 minutes. It's not possible. So we've found that out. We've tried to massage routes, move kids around, do everything we could do to be able to get those buses to SLE on time, to be able to commit to parents of, here's when your kid's going to be home from the bus. Two times that a parent's whole day revolves around is, what time does that bus pick them up in the morning so I can get on about my day, work or whatever it may be, and what time are they going to be home so I can be there to get them off that bus and provide care for my child. We haven't been able to do a very good job of that with 3 buses at SLE currently in the afternoon, due to they have 22 minutes to get from the high school to South Lebanon empty and get back up to the elementary school to be in the lot for dismissal. So what we've worked to be able to, and they're really 5 to 15 minutes late. You know, our problem last year was we didn't have a driver for a bus. So buses would all leave. 2 and 3 buses of kids would sit at the school until one bus was empty. That may be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But when the first one got emptied, it would go back to the school to pick them up. So we've minimize the problem a little bit. They're just a little bit late, but we feel like we need to look and consider doing something to tweak that start time back a little bit to possibly align with our other 2 elementary schools. So all of our tier 2 schools could start at the same time. We could consistently commit to when those kids would get on the bus and when they would get off the bus in the afternoon. And for our staff side of it, they're not staying late to keep an eye on 3 classrooms of kids that are waiting in the gym for 10 or 15 minutes waiting for those buses to arrive. So it creates hardships on our parents, which is not fair to them, because we're sending out a text message and a phone call every day the best we can as far as committing to a time for that bus to pick them up or when that bus is going to get them home. So every day you've got 3 buses that are getting a text message, and it just gets to be hard for a parent to plan on what their day looks like when every day I'm getting a text. It might be 5, it might be 10, it might be 15 minutes late. So what we're proposing is to look at changing that SLE start time. We don't need to overcompensate for getting them to Columbia and aligning them with the other 2 elementary schools, which would change the time 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes back in the afternoon, which would allow all those buses, and we could commit to not having to call those parents every day to say, hey, your kid's going to be late. So from a staffing perspective, we're in really good shape. We were very aggressive on that time window to try to commit to affecting the least amount of hardship on our families, but we might have been a little bit too aggressive in that one instance of South Lebanon. So we want to look at adjusting that time to align with the 3 other elementary schools.
How much notice would parents have before a change would be made?
Right now, we've been looking at making that change possibly during fall break, which is
A month.
that Saturday is the 21st. So the 23rd would be the first day. So a month out to give them time. We want to start that communication because it is a challenge for any, like I live it every day. We're all living it or have lived it, to find childcare, make sure, that 15 minutes is a big deal. And we get that it's tough, especially when you probably spend all summer securing childcare or where how you're going to manage when your kid gets on and off the bus. So worth it 30 days.
So I know you said 15 minutes, but what would that exact start time be? Do you have that?
Instead of 8:10, it'd be 8:25. And then in the afternoon, instead of 2:40, it'd be 2:55.
And that's the same time as the other 2 elementary K-4 buildings?
AME and Jeff Burns, correct.
Yes.
This would have no impact to the Columbia bus routes.
No.
Okay. I know
It's those
that's
buses-
been a sore spot.
That's
with the late-
absolutely,
late
that's,
bus.
that's a great question. We fine tune that down. We've been able to massage those routes and make them work. The hard part about SLE is they're younger kids. So at Columbia, you can manage them differently than you can kindergartners. And at Columbia, we could hold kids on the sidewalk for those 5 or 10 minutes, release the kids that go onto their buses. But at SLE, you can't let some of them leave. So they're actually leaving right now because we're waiting for all those buses to arrive. So it's safe to send out those small kids to get on the bus. So those buses are sitting there waiting for those other ones to show up. We let them all out, then we roll out. So the times will work.
So as of right now, excuse me, right now, we are working on some intermediary solutions with our staff. Because the reality is it's in a position where it's our staff is having to extend their contract day beyond what the contract says. So they're graciously doing that and have done very good work and are routinely able to do that whenever there's a situation with an individual bus that happens throughout the district. Teachers are always willing to do that. But if we have a system that consistently sets that up, and we have to look at that a little bit differently. So Matt alluded to this. The reality of it is there's a contractual issue as well that we need to consider. So we're working with our teachers on some alternative solutions in the meantime. But we wanted to bring this up this evening just to make the board aware, but also be transparent in that the attempt was really done in good faith effort to maximize the travel time to Columbia. We're just seeing a little bit of hiccups there, and it may not be needed. So it would benefit us to have all 3 elementaries for a number of reasons. We share staff between elementaries, some consistency there as well. So there's some benefit to that. But all we wanted tonight is to lay the groundwork with the board, answer any questions that you may have, publicly say we're looking at this. And then I would say here soon, we would want to make a decision on the timing of that. If the timing is too soon on the fall break timeframe in October, then we can look at different timeframes, like natural breaks oftentimes are good times to set that up. So we're flexible in that. We have some solutions with our staff to navigate that, but just wanted to make sure the board was aware of this concern. And then we can work on solutions and in the appropriate timing if we're all on the same page. So
Fall breaks the end of the first quarter, just as a side. note.
Mr. Lucky, did you also look at or contact the different municipalities that have road construction going on so that
They hurry up.
they hurry up and get it done?
They're doing the best they can. I know it's we're getting there. That's come the first of the year. A lot of stress points will be alleviated. Those timings are tough. Our high school, junior high campuses are dealing with that in the morning with the bridge being closed. It's back. Columbia Road's backed up just about to 48. It feels like if you drive down there. So it's going to be great when it's done. I just keep telling myself that. I hope everybody
So
else
that
has the
will
same look.
Also, in the future, help some of the buses getting where they need to go on time, just because of even the road changes from 1 lane to 2 lanes day to day, I think.
We have a lot of things slowing us down right now but I say that, but when those projects are done, there's going to be other projects. We're growing so much here in this community with everything that's going on that there's always going to be road construction that we deal with. I've been here for 7 years. I've dealt with it since year 1 somewhere. If it's Montgomery Road in Columbia, if it's 48 Mesa Mar, it's just part of it. That's what you deal with when everybody wants to live here.
Okay, thank you.
And the bridge is still tentative for January.
Plus or minus.
That's or minus.
We're busy working on the homecoming parade. I'll throw a shout out for Friday. The Warren County Engineers Office and Deerfield Township Police helped us last year create the ability to keep our parade on and keep it right here. So Friday night, the homecoming parade will go on. We'll have the same route as last year. It'll just be a little bit dirtier on the sides when you get down to the high school.
All right, that sounds good. That was actually going to be my next question. Like, how are we going to handle that? But okay. Any more questions for Mr. Lucky? I don't know if he wants any more, but thank you, Mr. Lucky, Mr. Spinner.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, the consent agenda is the item for the assistant superintendent regarding the educational programs. Mrs. Martin, Mr. Freeman, anything? All right, perfect. So may I have, there's no item, it's just a roll call. Is that? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So next on the agenda then are the items presented by the board. Did we have anything to present this evening? We'll take that as a no. Next on the agenda is the legislative update, Mr. Squirrel.
Yeah, not a whole lot going on legislative wise. Nothing that was signed into or presented to Governor DeWine. I did touch last week on the bus safety working group. You'll see in the attachment there that Governor DeWine had announced some members of this group. So go through that. And then there's a few new items that were proposed this month. So read through those if you have any questions. Just let me know. Otherwise, relatively quiet from a legislative standpoint.
Any questions for Mr. Squirrel? Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is the student achievement liaison update. Mrs. Phillips.
Okay, this time I decided to pull some things from Twitter X, or just X, if that's what you'd like to call it now. And if you think about, we're like midway through the first quarter, and just look at the work that the students are producing. So after reading A Bad Case of Stripes, this week we applied our learning of character descriptions in a directed drawing and writing task. So you'll see some of the children making ladies with stripes, and then in the background or foreground, you can see some of them writing their stories. And this is just a hooray for our strong music program in the district. So congratulations to them. And you can notice there's 6 different awards that they received from the invitational at Lakota. So congratulations to our strong music program at King's. This was an interesting one, Project Lead the Way. And they took cow bones, scraped out the marrow, and made snowmen out of them. So that's just the students working, and they certainly look like they were having a good time at that project. And then the PAC program at the junior high, that was the great work as far as the pride, attitude, commitment, and together, which is the junior high work all year long. So congratulations to the students of the week there receiving that. And then first grade teacher had her first student that got the wise word chart filled today. And then she goes on to say that Ronald was successful because he used enough words from the vocabulary in his stories that he finally filled his very first word chart. So congratulations to Ronald for the hard work and using the new words he had learned. The ceramics 2 students were working on creating depth, and they did that through making masks. So just a creative project. And if you think about doing that, that takes a lot of problem solving, critical thinking. It's not just like, oh, let me do this. They have to really plan and prepare ahead on what they're going to do to be successful. So great job on that. And then second graders making the jump from the summer flowers, getting ready to go into fall. So I think they would like to see summer continue if you look at all of the bright colors. Another project, Lead the Way. This one was more on the IT and formatting different features of the app that they were using, and they learned how to attach audio files. And I thought, I think maybe I need to go to that class to learn how to do that. I'm not good at doing that one. So great job on that project. Now, this is interesting. If you look at how well those pictures look, it was all done by writing words, not just drawing, but they had to figure out how are they going to write words that will describe a loved one in a picture that they were trying to sketch out. So I thought, kudos to them. That my art skills are definitely not there. I'm more the stick person. And I thought this, just look at the creative work the fashion studio students were doing. I especially like the doll that she drew a design and then actually created it as doll clothes. And remember sewing doll clothes for my daughter. I thought that's not an easy task to do at all. So great job on their efforts. And do you remember Coke and Mentos and having the eruption in the third grade classroom? That's one of the experiment options, and I'm so glad they were doing that outside. And Case, the student who in the first picture is reading the directions to perform the experiment. Mr. Meisner was showing off his skills of engineering and how he could stack all of those textbooks on top of the one little small figure underneath. And so he had the students in awe. So the beginning of engineering 1 for the students. And this was another accolade as far as on 9/11s and the remembrance ceremony, and the girls wrote poems and was able to go and read their poem for the work that they completed. So. And then star staff member, and I thought that was nice that all of the students were also there to help let her know what an exceptional job she does as an ELA teacher. And this is the seniors getting ready to go out on the 9/11 day of service and remembrance. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Mrs. Phillips. Next on the agenda, I'm going to ask for a motion for us to enter in the executive session for the purposes of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. May I have that motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We've left the executive session. And now may I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow,
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirrell,
Yes.
Mr. Belfron.
yes. Everyone have a good evening.